The story appears in a magazine, serialized, almost hidden, in A Glass Darkly by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. 5 stories, Gothic tales, ghost stories, and buried among them, Carmilla. The reading public is scandalized, confused, aroused, horrified, because this isn't a vampire story like the Penny Dreadfuls. This isn't a mindless corpse spreading plague. This is something worse. This is a vampire who loves her victims, a female vampire who seduces young women, who whispers, "You are mine," before she feeds, who makes them want it. Victorian society doesn't know what to do with this. How do you categorize a monster who doesn't break into your house? She becomes your best friend. Who doesn't attack you in a dark alley? She climbs into your bed and makes you beg for more. So they do what Victorian society always does with uncomfortable truths. They bury it, forget it, pretend it never existed. 25 years later, Bram Stoker publishes Dracula. It becomes the definitive vampire novel. Everyone remembers Dracula. Everyone forgets Carmilla. But here's what nobody tells you. Stoker read Carmilla, borrowed from it extensively. The Eastern European setting, the aristocratic vampire, the castle, the hunters, the stake through the heart. He took Le Fanu's template and made one crucial change. He made the vampire male and the victims female. Heterosexual predation was acceptable. Lesbian seduction was not. So Carmilla was erased from history. The original vampire, the template for everything that came after. Forgotten because she was too dangerous, too intimate, too honest about what vampirism really represents. Predatory love that drains you dry. But before we enter that darkness, I want to ask you something. If you believe these dark myths, strange histories, and forbidden truths are worth remembering, if you believe the story of the first literary vampire, the one who loved her victims to death, deserves to be told, you can help us continue this work by liking this video and subscribing to the Midnight Archives. Your support keeps the candle burning in the darkness and allows us to explore the monsters that society tried to bury. Tonight, we open the archive. We will walk through the forests of Styria. We will meet the Blood Countess who bathed in the blood of young women. We will examine the reclusive author who wrote about forbidden desire disguised as horror. We will trace how a story about predatory intimacy became the blueprint for modern vampire fiction. We'll explore the real woman who inspired Carmilla, possibly innocent, definitely destroyed, transformed by history into a monster. We'll examine Le Fanu's own buried grief and obsessions. We'll walk through the seduction, the feeding, the slow drain of a victim who doesn't realize she's being killed. And we'll confront the modern question. How do you recognize a vampire when she looks like a friend? When she says she loves you? When part of you wants to be consumed? This is the story of the vampire before Dracula, but it's also the story of predatory love in every age. The intimate monster who gets close before feeding. Welcome to the Midnight Archives. August 1560, near Bathory, Kingdom of Hungary. A girl is born into one of the most powerful families in Europe, the Bathorys, connected to kings, princes, and the Polish throne itself. Wealthier than most monarchs, more influential than the church. Her name is Elizabeth, Elizabeth in Hungarian, but history will remember her by another name, the Blood Countess. Here's what we know for certain. She was highly educated, unusual for women of her time, spoke Hungarian, Latin, German, and Greek, read extensively, was intelligent, ambitious, and keenly aware of her power. She married at 15 to Ferenc Nadasdy, a count and military commander. A political marriage, like all aristocratic marriages. He spent most of their marriage fighting Ottoman invasions, leaving Elizabeth alone to manage vast estates and thousands of subjects. She had 4 children, managed complex agricultural and financial operations, corresponded with nobles and clergy. By all accounts, she was a competent administrator. And then the accusations began. December 1610, King Matthias II orders her arrest. The charges are almost unbelievable: torture and murder of hundreds of young women. Servants testify that Elizabeth lured peasant girls to her castle with promises of employment, then subjected them to horrific tortures, that she drained their blood and bathed in it, believing it would preserve her youth and beauty. The number varies by account: 80 victims, 100, 300. One witness claims 650. Elizabeth Báthory was arrested, tried in absentia because she was too noble to appear in court, and walled up in her own castle, literally bricked into a set of rooms with only small slits for food and air. She died 4 years later, never formally convicted, never publicly sentenced, just erased. And here's where the story gets complicated, because there are problems with the official narrative. Serious problems. First, Elizabeth was never formally tried. She was too powerful, too connected. A public trial would have been a scandal. Her family was related to royalty across Europe, so she was arrested, declared guilty based on witness testimony, and imprisoned without ever defending herself. Second, the witnesses were mostly servants, interrogated under torture. In 1610 Hungary, torture was standard legal procedure. You could get anyone to confess to anything if you applied enough pain. And these servants were testifying against their employer, someone who wielded absolute power over their lives. Third, the timing is suspicious. King Matthias II owed Elizabeth's deceased husband an enormous debt, money borrowed to fund military campaigns. By arresting Elizabeth and seizing her estates, the king cancelled the debt and gained control of the Bathory fortune. Fourth, Elizabeth's relatives, male relatives, moved immediately to claim her properties. They had financial motivation to see her destroyed. Fifth, the vampire accusations didn't appear until years after her death. The bathing in blood, the belief in supernatural youth. These details were added later, building on her reputation, transforming a possibly innocent woman into a legendary monster. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Something happened in those castles. Young women disappeared. Bodies were discovered. Servants testified to witnessing violence, even under torture. Elizabeth's own letters contain references to harsh punishments of servants. So what really happened? Was she a serial killer who murdered hundreds? Probably not. The numbers are almost certainly exaggerated. 650 murders over 20 years would mean killing someone every 11 days, leaving bodies everywhere with no one noticing for decades. Impossible. Was she completely innocent, framed by men who wanted her wealth? Maybe. It's possible. Powerful women were often destroyed by accusations of witchcraft, heresy, or sexual deviance. Elizabeth fit the profile. wealthy widow, no male protector, threatening to male authority? Or was she somewhere in between? A woman with absolute power who abused it, who punished servants harshly in an age when aristocrats routinely beat and killed peasants with impunity, who became cruel because she could. We'll never know the truth. The trial records are incomplete. The testimonies are unreliable. Elizabeth never got to tell her side, but history didn't need the truth. History needed a monster, and Elizabeth Báthory became that monster, the beautiful, noble woman who bathed in virgin blood to stay young forever. The Blood Countess, the inspiration for every vampire that came after, including Carmilla. Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu was obsessed with historical crimes, especially those involving women and sexuality. He read everything he could find about Elizabeth Báthory. The trial records, the legends, the folk tales that had grown around her name, the stories of the beautiful countess who lured young women to her castle and drained their blood. And he saw something in those stories, not just horror, but intimacy. Because if the legends were true, and he didn't care if they were, he was writing fiction. Elizabeth didn't just kill. She got close to her victims first, promised them employment, security, a better life, made them trust her, then betrayed that trust in the most visceral way possible. That's more terrifying than a monster who attacks strangers. That's a monster who becomes your friend, your confidant, someone you invite into your life willingly. Le Fanu took the Bathory legend and transformed it, made her immortal, because that's the only way beauty can truly last forever. Made her seductive, because vampirism is about desire, not just hunger. Made her female, hunting female victims, because he understood something about forbidden desire that Victorian society refused to acknowledge. He changed her name. Countess Elizabeth Báthory became Countess Mircalla Karnstein. Mircalla, an anagram, rearranged to create new identities. Carmilla, Milaka, same person, different faces, moving through centuries, through countries, through innocent lives, leaving a trail of drained corpses behind her. The historical Blood Countess died in 1614, walled up in her castle, possibly innocent of the charges that destroyed her. But the fictional vampire? She's still out there, still hunting, still making victims love her before she feeds. Born August 28th, 1814, in Dublin, Ireland, into respectability, into Protestant ascendancy, into a world where appearances mattered more than truth. His father was a Church of Ireland clergyman. His mother came from a literary family. Her brother was Richard Brinsley Sheridan, the famous playwright. Young Joseph grew up surrounded by books, ideas, proper society. He studied law at Trinity College Dublin, showed promise. But his real passion was journalism and literature. He wrote for magazines, published stories, contributed political essays, became co-owner of several newspapers. By all outward appearances, he was a success, respectable, educated, well-connected. And in 1844, at age 30, he married Susanna Bennett. 14 years together, 4 children. By all accounts, a genuinely loving marriage, unusual for the time, when most unions were about property and social advantage. Susanna was his partner, his first reader, his support, and then in 1858 she died. The official cause was hysteria, followed by nervous collapse, Victorian medical terminology that meant essentially nothing. What's clear is that Susanna suffered from severe anxiety and depression in her final years, and that her death destroyed Le Fanu completely. After Susanna died, Le Fanu retreated from the world. He stopped attending social functions, stopped visiting friends, stopped leaving his house except when absolutely necessary. His friends called him the Invisible Prince, a man who had vanished from society while still technically alive. He lived alone with his children in a house at 18 Merrion Square, Dublin. Gave up journalism, gave up everything except writing fiction. And he wrote only at night. His routine became legendary. He'd sleep during the day, wake at sunset, spend his evenings alone. Then at midnight, he'd go to bed, but not to sleep. He'd prop himself up with pillows, light candles, drink strong tea, and write for hours, deep into the night, producing story after story about ghosts, hauntings, the undead returning. His housekeeper reported finding him in the morning still propped up, tea gone cold, surrounded by pages covered in cramped handwriting. He was writing in bed, in the darkness, half asleep, half fevered, channeling something from the depths of his unconscious mind. And what emerged was horror, but not the horror of monsters in dark alleys, the horror of intimacy, of people who can't let go, of love that refuses to die. Nearly all of Le Fanu's fiction, especially the work after Susanna's death, is about people who won't stay dead. Ghosts haunting the living, vampires feeding on the innocent, spirits clinging to the physical world, the dead refusing to accept death, Uncle Silas, a dead man's evil influence poisoning the living. The Room in the Dragon, Volant, apparent death, premature burial, awakening in a tomb, Green Tea, a man haunted by a demonic presence that won't leave him alone, and Carmilla, a vampire who has been dead for 150 years, returning again and again to prey on young women. Critics at the time assumed Le Fanu was just writing Gothic horror, a popular genre, but reading his work now, knowing his biography, the subtext is unmistakable. These aren't just horror stories, they're grief stories, mourning stories, stories about refusing to let go of the dead. Le Fanu couldn't let go of Susanna. 14 years of marriage, then nothing. She was gone. And he spent the rest of his life, 15 more years, writing about the dead returning. Was it therapeutic, or was it compulsive? Was he processing his grief, or was he keeping her alive the only way he could? In fiction, in his midnight writings, in the ghosts that haunted his pages? We don't know. Le Fanu was intensely private, destroyed most of his personal papers before he died, left no journals, no confessions, no explanations. But the fiction remains, and it tells us something true. Carmilla was published in 1872, 2 years before Le Fanu's death, part of a collection called In a Glass Darkly. On the surface, it's a vampire story, Gothic horror, a young woman menaced by a supernatural predator. But read more carefully, and it's something else entirely. It's a love story. Carmilla doesn't just feed on Laura. She seduces her, courts her, makes passionate declarations. You are mine, you shall be mine, you and I are one forever. This isn't metaphor. This isn't a vampire using love as a manipulation tactic. This is genuine desire, twisted, predatory, destructive, but desire nonetheless. Carmilla loves Laura. In her own monstrous way, she genuinely loves her. And Laura, Victorian, proper, never been kissed, responds to that love, is drawn to it, craves it even as it destroys her. Victorian society had no language for this. Female same-sex desire was legally invisible. Lesbianism wasn't even illegal in Britain because lawmakers refused to acknowledge it could exist. Women's intimate friendships were expected, encouraged even, as long as they remained chaste. But Carmilla makes the desire explicit, physical, sexual. There's no way to read Laura and Carmilla's relationship as just friendship. It's romance, it's passion, it's consumption in every sense. Le Fanu couldn't write openly about same-sex desire. It was unpublishable. So he made it monstrous, made the lesbian vampire a predator, a killer, something that had to be destroyed. But he also made her sympathetic, romantic, beautiful, tragic, a creature who loves deeply and genuinely, even as she kills. And he made Laura complicit. She doesn't just endure Carmilla's attention, she welcomes it, craves it, mourns it when it's gone. This is radical for 1872. This is dangerous. This is why Carmilla was buried while Dracula became famous. Because Stoker's Dracula is safe. The monster is male, foreign, other. He attacks pure English women who resist him. The sexual threat is heterosexual and non-consensual, rape, not seduction. The heroes destroy him and restore order. Carmilla offers no such comfort. The monster is female, beautiful, loving. She attacks women who want her back. The sexual threat is lesbian and consensual. Seduction, not rape. The heroes destroy her, but Laura is never the same. Order is not restored. Le Fanu wrote something Victorian society couldn't process. A monster you could love, a love that was monstrous. And he wrote it alone, at midnight, in bed, in the darkness. A widower writing about obsessive love that transcends death. You don't have to be Freud to see the subtext. Laura is 19 years old and dying of boredom. She lives in a Schloss, a small castle in Styria, a remote province in what is now Austria. Rolling forests, mountains in the distance. No neighbors for miles, just Laura, her father, and a handful of servants. Her mother died when she was an infant, no siblings, no friends nearby. Her father is kind but distant, absorbed in his books and correspondence. Laura has governesses, tutors, proper education, everything a wealthy young woman should have, except companionship, except intimacy, except life. She spends her days reading, walking the grounds, staring out windows at the forest, wondering what exists beyond the trees. She's not unhappy exactly, just waiting. For what, she doesn't know. Something, someone, anything to break the monotony. She has one memory that haunts her. When she was 6 years old, she woke in the night to find a beautiful woman in her room. The woman climbed into her bed, held her, kissed her neck. Laura felt a sharp sting, like needles, then warmth spreading through her body. She cried out, and the woman vanished. Her nursemaid found her with blood on her nightgown. The doctor was called. They found 2 small puncture marks on her throat but couldn't explain them. Eventually, they decided it was a nightmare. Children have vivid imaginations. The wound must have been from an insect bite, a sharp edge on the bed frame, something rational. Laura knew better. But over the years, she started to doubt herself too. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe she imagined the whole thing. She's about to discover she didn't imagine anything. One evening, Laura and her father are sitting in their drawing room when they hear it. Horses screaming, wood splintering, someone shouting in the darkness. They rush outside with lanterns. A carriage has crashed on the road near their gates. Overturned, one wheel completely destroyed. The horses are panicking. The driver is injured but alive. And in the wreckage, two women. One is older, composed despite the chaos, issuing orders to the servants in multiple languages. A lady of quality. You can see it in her bearing, hear it in her voice. The other is young, maybe Laura's age. Dark hair, pale skin, beautiful in a way that makes you forget to breathe. She's conscious but weak, leaning heavily on the older woman. Laura's father immediately offers assistance. Of course they must help. The older woman accepts gratefully, but explains she's on urgent business. She cannot delay her journey even a day. However, her young companion, her ward, needs rest. The crash has worsened a delicate constitution. Would they perhaps... Laura's father doesn't hesitate. The young woman can stay as their guest, rest for as long as needed. They have plenty of room. They'd be honored. The older woman agrees immediately, relieved, grateful, already instructing her driver to continue once the carriage is repaired. She'll return for her ward within 3 months, once her business is concluded. And just like that, the young woman is installed in their home. Her name is Carmilla. Laura watches Carmilla being helped into the house, and something shifts inside her. A feeling she can't name. Recognition, maybe. But that's impossible. They've never met, haven't they? Later, when Carmilla is settled in a bedroom, when the older woman has departed in a hastily repaired carriage, when the servants have gone to bed, Laura lies awake, thinking. Carmilla's face. She knows that face. The memory surfaces slowly, like something rising from deep water. The woman in her room when she was 6. The beautiful woman who climbed into her bed, who held her, who bit her. It's the same face, older now, but the same. Hasn't changed at all, actually. 13 years later and Carmilla looks exactly the same age she looked then. But that's impossible. Laura was 6. That makes Carmilla, what, 19 then? She'd be 32 now. But she looks 19, exactly 19. Laura tells herself she's imagining things. The crash, the excitement, the exhaustion. It's making her see connections that aren't there. Carmilla must just resemble the woman from her childhood nightmare. That's all. That has to be all. She falls asleep repeating this to herself and wakes to find Carmilla standing beside her bed, watching her sleep. "I'm sorry," Carmilla whispers. "I couldn't sleep. I was frightened. May I stay with you?" She's already climbing into Laura's bed before Laura can answer, already pressing close. Her body is cold, unusually cold, but Laura doesn't pull away. She lets Carmilla curl against her, let her rest her head on Laura's shoulder. "I feel like I know you," Carmilla murmurs. "Like we've met before. Haven't we?" Laura's heart races. I don't think so." "Are you sure?" "I never forget a face. And yours." Carmilla traces a finger along Laura's jaw. "I'd remember this face. It's too intimate, too fast. They only met hours ago." But Laura doesn't push her away, because she feels it too. This strange familiarity, this sense that they've known each other forever. "Tell me about yourself," Laura says, trying to change the subject. "Where are you from? Who was that woman you were traveling with?" Carmilla's face closes. "I don't like to talk about myself. The past is so tedious, don't you think? Let's only discuss the present, you and me, right now." She takes Laura's hand, laces their fingers together. "You're so warm," Carmilla says. "So alive." I could stay here forever. Laura should feel alarmed. should recognize this as strange, inappropriate, wrong. Instead, she feels chosen, special. For the first time in her lonely life, someone wants to be close to her. She falls asleep with Carmilla in her arms. When she wakes, Carmilla is gone, back to her own room, presumably. But Laura's neck aches. 2 small points of pain, like needles, like before. The next weeks blur together in a haze of constant companionship. Carmilla never leaves Laura's side. They walk the grounds together, read together, sit by the fire together. Carmilla is everything Laura has been missing. Intelligent, witty, affectionate, intensely interested in every detail of Laura's life. But there are strange things too. Carmilla sleeps late, never emerging before noon, claims she has a delicate constitution, needs extensive rest. When she does wake, she's languid, moving slowly, like someone emerging from deep water. She won't eat meals with them, claims she ate in her room, but Laura never sees evidence of food being brought up. Carmilla seems to live on nothing but tea and occasional fruit. She refuses to attend the chapel, says religion depresses her. Laura's father is puzzled but doesn't press. Many young people these days have unconventional views, and the physical affection continues, increasing actually. Carmilla touches Laura constantly, holds her hand, strokes her hair, sits so close their bodies press together. At night, she appears in Laura's room, claiming nightmares, and climbs into her bed. Laura should object, should maintain proper boundaries. This isn't how young ladies of quality behave. But Carmilla makes her feel alive for the first time, seen, desired, loved. Because Carmilla tells her she loves her. It happens one evening in the drawing room. Laura is playing piano. Carmilla lounges on the sofa, watching her with those dark, intense eyes. When Laura finishes, Carmilla stands, crosses to her, takes both her hands. "Laura," she says, "I love you." Laura's breath catches. "We've only known each other a few weeks. I have loved you longer than you think." Carmilla's grip tightens. "You are mine. You shall be mine. You and I are one forever." The words should sound romantic. Instead, they sound like a claim, like ownership. "Carmilla, I don't..." Carmilla pulls her close. Their faces are inches apart. Laura can feel Carmilla's breath, cold somehow, despite the warm room. "Don't you feel it?" Carmilla whispers. "This connection between us? This is fate, Laura. We were meant to find each other. I have searched so long for you." And then she kisses Laura on the mouth, deeply, possessively. Laura has never been kissed, has certainly never been kissed by a woman. She should pull away, should call for her father, should end this immediately. Instead, she kisses back. When they finally separate, Carmilla is smiling, triumphant. "You see," she murmurs, "you are mine already. You always have been." That night, Carmilla visits Laura's room again. But this time, when Laura wakes briefly in the darkness, she feels weight on her chest, pressure. Carmilla is leaning over her, but her face is different, animalistic, hungry. Laura tries to scream but can't, tries to move but is paralyzed. She feels Carmilla's mouth on her throat, feels sharp pain, then pleasure, terrible, overwhelming pleasure, then nothing. Laura begins to deteriorate. She's tired all the time, sleeps 12 hours and wakes exhausted. Her skin is paler, she has no appetite. She moves through the house like a ghost. Her father is worried, calls the local doctor. The doctor examines her, finds the marks on her throat, 2 small punctures, inflamed, not healing properly. An insect bite, perhaps, the doctor suggests, or some irritation from jewelry. Keep it clean. She needs rest and good food, but Laura doesn't improve. She gets weaker, the marks on her throat remain, and new ones appear, always in pairs, always on her neck or shoulder or chest, anywhere Carmilla might have access at night, because Carmilla comes every night now. Laura wakes sometimes during the visits, catches glimpses, Carmilla's face transforming into something inhuman, Carmilla's mouth on her skin, the sensation of being drained like water flowing out of a vessel. But in the morning, Carmilla is normal again, beautiful, concerned, sitting beside Laura's bed, holding her hand, asking how she's feeling. "You're ill, my darling," Carmilla murmurs. "But don't worry. I'll take care of you. I'll never leave you." The words sound like comfort. But Laura is starting to understand they're a threat. Something is wrong with Carmilla. Something is wrong with this entire situation. But Laura is too weak now to resist, too drained. And part of her, a terrible, traitorous part, doesn't want to resist. Because Carmilla makes her feel wanted, chosen, loved, even if that love is killing her. Then the other deaths begin. A young woman in the nearest village falls ill. Same symptoms as Laura: exhaustion, mysterious marks, wasting away despite medical care. She dies within 2 weeks. Then another, and another. Always young women. Always the same pattern. They report dreams of a beautiful woman visiting them at night, of intimacy and pain and pleasure all mixed together. Then they fade away, blood drained almost completely. The village is terrified. They remember the old stories, the vampires that plagued this region centuries ago, the Karnstein family, cursed nobility who became undead, the purges that destroyed them. But that was 150 years ago. The Karnstein castle is ruins now, the bloodline extinct. Everyone knows vampires are just superstition, aren't they? Laura's father tries to keep the panic from reaching their isolated Schloss, tries to protect Laura from disturbing news, but she overhears servants talking, sees the fear in their eyes when they look at her, pale, weak, marked, sees the way they watch Carmilla with suspicion. And then General Spielsdorf arrives. General Spielsdorf is an old friend of Laura's father. Military man, practical, no nonsense. He arrives unannounced one evening, travel-stained and exhausted. Laura's father welcomes him warmly, introduces him to their guest, Carmilla. Carmilla goes pale. The first time Laura has seen her show fear. The general stares at her. His hand moves toward his sword. "You," he says. Then Laura's father steps between them, confused, demanding explanations, and the general tells his story. 6 months ago, his daughter, his only child, was visited by a young woman, a distant relative, or so the mother claimed, traveling through the area. The general was away on military business. His wife welcomed the young woman, allowed her to stay. Her name was Milaka. She befriended the general's daughter, became her constant companion. They were inseparable, reading together, walking together, sleeping in the same bed. Then the daughter fell ill. The same mysterious illness, the same marks, the same slow draining. She died in her father's arms, whispering about a beautiful woman who visited her at night, who said she loved her, who fed on her like a lover. The general, grief-stricken, began investigating, spoke to a priest who specialized in vampire lore, learned about the Karnstein family, vampire nobles who plagued this region 150 years ago, who were hunted down and destroyed, their tombs desecrated, their line ended, or so everyone thought. The priest showed him records, family trees, portraits, and there, in a portrait from 1698, was Millarca, identical to the woman who befriended his daughter. Same face, same age, 74 years apart. The priest explained, vampires use anagrams, change their names slightly. Millarca, Mircalla, Carmilla, all anagrams of the same name. The original name, Countess Mircalla Karnstein, dead in 1698. Or not dead, undead, hunting young women across centuries. Different names, same method. Befriend, seduce, feed, kill, move on. The general tractor followed rumors of mysterious deaths, and the trail led here to Carmilla. Carmilla doesn't deny it. She stands there in Laura's drawing room and smiles. You understand nothing, she says to the general. You think this is predation. This is love. I loved your daughter. I love Laura more than you could ever comprehend. You killed my daughter, the general says. I gave her eternity. We would have been together forever, but you humans are so fragile. She couldn't survive the transformation. Not everyone can. Laura, listening from the doorway, feels her world collapsing. The woman she trusted, the woman she kissed, the woman who said, "You are mine." She's a monster, has always been a monster. And Laura invited her in. Laura, Carmilla says, seeing her. Her voice softens. You understand, don't you? What we have is special, rare. I have searched for centuries for someone like you, someone strong enough. Come with me. Let me complete the transformation. We can be together forever. For a moment, one terrible moment, Laura considers it. Because part of her still loves Carmilla, still craves that intimacy, still wants to be chosen. Then she sees the bodies, the trail of corpses stretching back centuries. Young women who trusted her, who loved her, who died believing they were special. Laura wasn't special. She was just next. No, Laura whispers. Carmilla's face twists, rage replacing seduction. Then you'll die like the others, she snarls and lunges. The general draws his sword. Laura's father grabs a religious icon from the mantle. The servants rush in with torches, but Carmilla is impossibly fast, impossibly strong. She tears through them like they're nothing, sending the general flying, knocking Laura's father unconscious, scattering the servants. She could kill them all, easily, but she doesn't. She looks at Laura one last time, and there's something in her expression, regret, longing, love. I would have made you immortal, she says. I would have loved you forever. Then she's gone, vanished into the night, leaving Laura alive but marked, forever changed. They find her 3 days later. The general knows the old methods. He brings a priest, Baron Vordenberg, an expert in vampire lore, descendant of the vampire hunters who destroyed the Karnstein family generations ago. Baron Vordenberg has maps, documents, family records showing where the Karnsteins were buried. Most tombs were desecrated in the purges, but some were missed, hidden, forgotten. They searched the ruins of Karnstein Castle, ancient foundations, collapsed chapels, overgrown crypts, and deep beneath the rubble, a tomb, intact, sealed with symbols meant to trap evil inside. The seal has been broken from the inside. Recently, they descend through narrow passages into darkness that hasn't seen light in 150 years. The tomb is ornate, noble, expensive, and in the center, a stone sarcophagus. The lid has been moved aside. Inside, Carmilla, not dead, not exactly, lying in her coffin, perfectly preserved, skin flushed with Laura's blood, eyes closed, breathing slowly, or something like breathing. She looks peaceful, beautiful, almost human. Laura, watching from the entrance, wants to stop them, wants to shout, "Don't hurt her," wants to believe there's some way to save this, to save Carmilla, to save what they had. But what did they have? Carmilla loved her the way a human loves livestock, tenderly, intimately, before the slaughter. The general raises the stake, places it over Carmilla's heart. Her eyes open. She sees Laura. "I'm sorry," Carmilla whispers. "I wish you were strong enough." Then the hammer falls. They burn the body, sanctify the ashes, seal the tomb properly this time. Laura recovers physically. The marks fade. Her strength returns. She's 19 years old with her whole life ahead of her. But she's never the same. She writes down her story, sends it to a friend, who passes it to Le Fanu, who publishes it as a warning, a testimony, a confession. And she ends with these words, translated from her German manuscript. "To this hour, the image of Carmilla returns to memory with ambiguous alternations, sometimes the playful, languid, beautiful girl, sometimes the writhing fiend I saw in the ruined church, and often from a reverie I have started, fancying I heard the light step of Carmilla at the drawing room door." Ambiguous alternations, even after learning the truth, even after watching her die, even after understanding that she was being consumed. Laura still remembers Carmilla with longing, still startles at footsteps, half hoping it's her, still dreams of being chosen, being loved, being consumed. Because that's the real horror of Carmilla. Not that she was a monster, but that her victims loved her anyway, and part of them always would. Before Carmilla, vampires were peasants. Seriously, look at the folklore. Eastern European vampire legends describe bloated corpses spreading plague, mindless undead that stumbled from graves to attack livestock, corpses that had to be staked to prevent them rising. They weren't seductive, they weren't intelligent, they weren't aristocratic. They were just dead people who wouldn't stay dead. Le Fanu changed everything. Carmilla, published 1872, established the template. Vampires are aristocratic. Carmilla is Countess Michala Karnstein, noble bloodline, wealthy, powerful. She doesn't attack peasants. She preys on other aristocrats, people of her own class. Vampirism is about corruption of the elite, not just random violence. Vampires are intelligent. Carmilla speaks multiple languages, quotes poetry, plays music. She's educated, cultured, sophisticated. She can pass in society because she belongs to society. Vampires are seductive. They don't attack randomly. They choose victims carefully, court them, make them want it. The feeding is intimate, almost sexual. The relationship between vampire and victim is erotic. Vampires use pseudonyms, Michala, Milarka, Carmilla, anagrams, different identities. the ability to infiltrate families, to become trusted, to hide in plain sight. Vampires have rules. They can't cross running water. They sleep in coffins. They must be invited in. Carmilla literally crashes her carriage to engineer an invitation. They can be destroyed by specific rituals. Stake through the heart, decapitation, burning. Vampire hunting is scientific. Baron Vordenberg has maps, documents, family records. He approaches vampirism as a solvable problem. You research, you track, you find the tomb, you execute the ritual. Vampire hunting becomes detective work. All of this, all of it, appears in Carmilla first, and 25 years later, Bram Stoker reads Carmilla and thinks, I can work with this. Bram Stoker's Dracula is published in 1897. It becomes the definitive vampire novel, the one everyone remembers, the one that launches 1,000 adaptations. And it borrows from Carmilla so extensively that it's basically fan fiction. Eastern European vampire nobility. Carmilla is Austrian aristocracy. Count Dracula is Transylvanian nobility. Same concept. Castle setting. The Karnstein Castle ruins appear throughout Carmilla. Dracula has his Transylvanian castle. Even the descriptions are similar. Ancient, crumbling, filled with secrets. Vampire hunters tracking the undead. Baron Vordenberg in Carmilla becomes Van Helsing in Dracula. Both are experts in vampire lore. Both keep records. Both know the rituals. Both lead hunting parties. The destruction ritual. Carmilla, stake through the heart. Decapitation, burning. Dracula, stake through the heart. Decapitation, purification. Identical. Seduction as weapon. Carmilla seduces Laura. Dracula seduces Lucy and Mina. The vampire's power is psychological as much as physical. Multiple identities and infiltration. Carmilla uses anagrams and crashes her way into households. Dracula buys property in London and infiltrates British society. Same strategy. Stoker absolutely read Carmilla. We know he did. It was famous in Gothic literature circles. He took Le Fanu's innovations and expanded them into an epic. But he made one crucial change. He made the vampire male and the victims female. Carmilla is a woman hunting women. Lesbian desire disguised as vampirism. Victorian society didn't know what to do with that. It was too transgressive, too uncomfortable, too honest about forbidden sexuality. Dracula is a man hunting women. Heterosexual threat. Rape metaphor. Foreign contamination of pure English womanhood. Victorian society could process that. It fit existing anxieties about male predation, female purity, foreign danger. So Dracula became acceptable, publishable, famous. And Carmilla was forgotten, erased from literary history because she was too dangerous, too queer, too female. But everyone who writes vampires after Stoker, they're really writing after Le Fanu, whether they know it or not. Carmilla did something radical. It made queerness monstrous, but also sympathetic. Carmilla is explicitly coded as lesbian. There's no metaphor here. She tells Laura, I love you. She kisses her. She climbs into her bed. She makes declarations of eternal devotion. This is romantic and sexual, not just predatory. And Laura responds. She's attracted to Carmilla, wants her back, struggles with feelings she doesn't understand. Because Victorian society gave her no framework for same-sex desire. Le Fanu couldn't write openly about lesbianism. It was unpublishable in 1872. So he made it vampiric. made the desire monstrous, made the queer character literally undead. But, and this is crucial, he also made her sympathetic. Carmilla isn't just evil, she's lonely. She's been alive for centuries, watching everyone she loves die. She genuinely seems to care for Laura, in her twisted way. Her final words, "I wish you were strong enough," sound like regret. And Laura remembers her with ambiguous alternations. Not pure horror, but mixed feelings. Love and fear, attraction and revulsion. This established a pattern in Gothic literature: the queer-coded monster, the creature who loves what society says they shouldn't, who desires what's forbidden, who must be destroyed to preserve social order, but who earns audience sympathy anyway. This continues through literature and film. Dracula's Brides, 1897. The three vampire women who seduced Jonathan Harker, explicitly sensual, explicitly threatening to male heterosexuality. Rebecca, 1938. Daphne du Maurier's Gothic novel with heavy lesbian subtext. The Dead Wife Who Haunts the New Marriage. Interview with the Vampire, 1976. Anne Rice's homoerotic vampire relationships. Louis and Lestat's domestic life. Claudia trapped in a child's body, wanting adult desires. The Hunger, 1983. Film with Catherine Deneuve as a bisexual vampire. Explicit lesbian seduction scenes. Direct Carmilla adaptation in all but name. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997 to 2003. Multiple lesbian vampire storylines. Willow's relationship with Vampire Willow. The queer-coded monsters who force the heroes to confront desire. True Blood, 2008 to 2014. Vampires as explicit LGBT metaphor. Coming out of the coffin. Vampire rights as stand-in for gay rights. Every sexy, sophisticated, queer-coded vampire in modern fiction owes a debt to Carmilla. She invented the archetype, the monster who loves you, the predator who makes you want it, the queer desire disguised as horror. Le Fanu couldn't write it openly, so he wrote it in code. And that code has been cracked and rewritten for 150 years. Carmilla isn't just the first literary vampire, she's the first queer monster. The first time someone took forbidden desire and made it gothic, made it romantic, made it tragic. She's still being written. She's still being adapted. She's still seducing victims and readers alike, because the story never ends. The monster never really dies. She just changes her name. Dracula breaks down your door. Carmilla becomes your best friend. That's the fundamental difference. That's why Carmilla is more frightening than Dracula, even though Stoker's novel is more famous. Dracula is an external threat, a foreign count invading England, a stranger attacking from outside. You can defend against him with crosses, garlic, locked doors. The threat is obvious. The enemy is clear. Carmilla is an internal threat. She doesn't attack from outside. She gets invited in, befriends you, studies you, learns your weaknesses, becomes what you need. Laura is lonely, so Carmilla offers companionship. Laura craves intimacy, so Carmilla provides it. Laura wants to be special, chosen, loved, so Carmilla makes her feel that way. By the time Laura realizes what's happening, it's too late. She's already attached, already emotionally invested, already in love with her own predator. That's not random violence. That's grooming. Look at Carmilla's method. Remove the supernatural elements, the immortality, the blood drinking, the transformation. What's left is a pattern that appears in predatory relationships across history. Step 1. Isolation. Laura is already isolated. Remote castle. No mother, distant father, no friends, no social circle. She's the perfect victim, lonely, vulnerable, desperate for connection. Carmilla doesn't create the isolation, she exploits it. This is textbook predator behavior. They don't target strong, supported, socially connected people. They target the vulnerable, the lonely, the ones who won't be immediately missed or defended. Step 2. Engineered intimacy. The carriage crash isn't an accident. Carmilla engineers it, creates a scenario where she'll be invited into Laura's home, where refusing would be cruel. Then she manufactures intimacy immediately, shares Laura's bed the first night, creates physical and emotional closeness faster than normal social relationships would allow. Laura should be uncomfortable with this speed, but she's too lonely to resist, too grateful for attention, too flattered by Carmilla's intense interest. Step 3. Love bombing. I love you. You are mine. You and I are one forever. Excessive declarations. Overwhelming affection. Constant physical contact. Carmilla drowns Laura in attention, making her feel special, chosen, irreplaceable. This is love bombing, an abuse tactic where the abuser showers the victim with affection to create dependency and obligation. The victim thinks, "No one has ever loved me like this before. This must be real. This must be special." But it's not love. It's a fishing lure. Beautiful, bright, tempting, and hiding a hook. Step 4. Boundary violation. Carmilla constantly violates boundaries, enters Laura's room uninvited, touches her without permission, climbs into her bed, makes sexual advances without consent. Laura is uncomfortable, but doesn't resist. Why? Because Carmilla has framed it as love. If Laura objects, she's rejecting love, rejecting the only intimacy she's ever known. This is how predators operate. They reframe boundary violations as expressions of affection. I can't help touching you. I love you so much. I can't sleep without you. I need you. I just want to be close to you. Don't you want that too? The victim's discomfort becomes guilt. Their self-protection becomes selfishness. Step 5. Dependency. By the time Laura is being drained, she's completely dependent. Emotionally, psychologically, physically. She can't imagine life without Carmilla, can't function without her constant presence. Even when she suspects something is wrong, when she sees the marks, feels the weakness, notices the pattern, she doesn't want to believe it. Because believing it means losing Carmilla, means being alone again. Victims of predatory relationships often stay even when they know something is wrong, not because they're stupid, because the predator has made themselves essential, has filled a void, has become the victim's primary source of love, validation, meaning. Leaving means going back to loneliness, and loneliness feels worse than dying slowly. Step 6. The feed. And then, when the victim is completely vulnerable, completely dependent, completely unable to resist, the predator feeds, takes what they wanted all along: money, sex, power, control, blood. The victim, at this point, often cooperates. because they still believe it's love, still believe they're special, still believe the predator cares about them. Laura experiences the feeding as pleasure, terrible, overwhelming pleasure. Her body responds even as it's being destroyed. That's not supernatural. That's biology. Abusive relationships often include pleasurable elements. That's how they trap you. The good moments make you believe the bad moments are worth it. Make you stay for just one more high until you're drained, empty, nothing left. Remove the fangs and Carmillas are everywhere. The online friend who love bombs you then slowly starts asking for money. Just small amounts at first. They're in a crisis. They need help. You're the only one who understands. Before you know it, you've sent thousands to someone you've never met. The romantic partner who isolates you from friends and family. Not overtly, just subtle pressure. They don't really get you like I do. Do you really need to see them so often? I feel alone when you're with other people, until your entire world is them. And then the real abuse starts. The mentor who makes you feel special, chosen, uniquely talented, then slowly starts demanding more time, more loyalty, more sacrifice. I'm investing so much in you, don't you owe me this? Until you're working for free, tolerating harassment, compromising your boundaries, because leaving means admitting you were never special at all. The influencer or guru who creates parasocial intimacy makes you feel seen, known, valued from behind a screen, then sells you products, courses, access, always promising deeper connection if you just invest more. You're drained financially and emotionally, but you keep coming back because they make you feel less alone. The predator doesn't need to be supernatural, doesn't need fangs, doesn't need to drink literal blood. They just need to find someone lonely, someone vulnerable, someone desperate to be chosen. Then they get close, manufacture intimacy, create dependency, and feed. The vampire is a metaphor, but the predation is real. Here's the most uncomfortable part of Carmilla. Laura never fully condemns her, even after learning the truth, even after watching Carmilla be destroyed, even after understanding that she was being consumed. Laura remembers her with ambiguous alternations. Sometimes the playful, beautiful girl, sometimes the writhing fiend. Both true, both real, both Carmilla. This is what makes Carmilla more psychologically sophisticated than Dracula. Stoker's vampires are purely evil. There's no ambiguity. You stake them and feel good about it. But Le Fanu understood something darker. Predators aren't always monstrous. Sometimes they're charming, lovable. Sometimes they genuinely care about you in their twisted way. And sometimes you love them back, even knowing what they are, even knowing what they've done. That's the real horror. Not that monsters exist, but that we can love monsters, can want to be consumed by them, can remember them fondly even after they've drained us. Abuse survivors often describe this, the cognitive dissonance of loving someone who hurt them, the good memories that coexist with the trauma, the way they still miss the person who destroyed them. Society doesn't understand this. Society wants clear victims and clear villains, wants survivors who unambiguously hate their abusers. But human psychology is messier. You can hate what someone did and still love who they were, can recognize they harmed you and still crave the good parts, can logically know you're better off without them and emotionally still want them back. Laura's ambiguous alternations capture this perfectly. She knows Carmilla was a monster, knows she was being killed, knows the love wasn't real, or wasn't only love at least. It was also hunger, predation, consumption, but it felt like love. And part of Laura, part of her forever, will remember it that way. That's not weakness, that's honesty. We can be both victim and accomplice, both prey and willing participant, both drained and still wanting more. The vampire doesn't need to force you. That's what makes her dangerous. You invite her in yourself. Carmilla isn't asking whether monsters exist. We know they do. It's asking, what if the monster loves you? What if the predator genuinely cares in their own twisted way? What if the person draining you believes they're giving you something valuable? Does that change anything? Carmilla tells Laura she loves her, and maybe she does. Maybe in 150 years of hunting, Laura is special. Maybe Carmilla really believes that draining her, transforming her, making her immortal. Maybe she believes that's a gift, but it doesn't matter. Love that destroys you is still destruction. Devotion that drains you is still predation. Someone can genuinely care about you and still be toxic, still be dangerous, still need to be cut out of your life. Because the measure of love isn't intensity, it's not devotion, it's not how much someone claims to need you. The measure of love is, does it make you more yourself or less? Does it strengthen you or drain you? Does it give you freedom or create dependency? Carmilla's love, no matter how genuine, makes Laura less, weaker, paler, more dependent, until she's almost dead. That's not love, that's consumption wearing love's face. We live in an age of engineered intimacy. Social media creates parasocial relationships, people you've never met who feel like friends, influencers who address you directly, make you feel seen, create the illusion of personal connection, then ask for your money, your attention, your loyalty. Dating apps manufacture chemistry through algorithms. You match with someone who seems perfect, who love bombs you, who creates intense intimacy immediately, then reveals themselves to be unstable, controlling, dangerous. But by then, you're attached. Online communities create belonging, then demand absolute conformity. They make you feel accepted, valued, part of something important, then slowly drain your time, energy, money, boundaries, all while insisting it's for your own good. Corporate culture creates family environments. Your job becomes your identity. Your co-workers become your best friends. Your employer becomes your primary source of validation. Then they work you to exhaustion, expecting unlimited loyalty because we're family. These are modern Carmillas. They get close. They make you feel special. They create dependency. Then they feed. And like Laura, we often don't recognize it until we're already drained, because they frame it as love, as care, as investment in our well-being. But love that leaves you empty isn't love. How do you recognize a Carmilla before she drains you? Speed. Real intimacy takes time. If someone is creating intense closeness immediately, sharing everything, demanding you share everything, acting like you've known each other forever after days or weeks, that's a warning sign. Predators manufacture intimacy quickly because they need dependency fast. Isolation. If someone discourages your other relationships, makes you feel guilty for spending time with others, positions themselves as your only true friend / partner / supporter, that's predation. Real love encourages your connections. Predatory love demands exclusivity, boundary violations framed as affection. I can't help touching you. I need to know where you are. I can't sleep without you. These aren't expressions of love, they're demands for control. You're always giving, they're always taking. Carmilla takes Laura's blood while offering only affection and attention in return. In modern terms, you're always emotionally supporting them, but they're unavailable when you need support. You're always compromising, but they never do. You're always exhausted, but they seem energized by your relationship. You feel worse, but you can't leave. This is the key indicator. If a relationship makes you weaker, sadder, more anxious, more exhausted, but you can't imagine ending it because they make you feel chosen, special, loved, that's predatory. Laura is literally dying, but can't imagine life without Carmilla. If you're metaphorically dying but can't imagine life without someone, that's not love, that's consumption. Sometimes the monster does love you. Sometimes they're not consciously trying to hurt you. Sometimes they genuinely believe they're giving you something valuable, but it doesn't matter. Good intentions don't change bad outcomes. Genuine affection doesn't excuse destruction. Someone can care about you and still need to be cut out of your life. Because you're responsible for protecting yourself. You're responsible for recognizing when something is draining you. You're responsible for leaving, even when it hurts. Laura survives because people intervene. Her father, General Spielsdorf, Baron Vordenberg, they recognize the danger and act. But what if no one intervenes? What if you're the only one who can see that something's wrong? Then you have to be your own General Spielsdorf, your own vampire hunter, your own rescuer. You have to drive the stake yourself. Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu died in 1873, 1 year after publishing Carmilla. He was 58 years old. He never remarried after Susanna's death. Spent 15 years alone, writing at midnight, creating ghosts and vampires and the undead who wouldn't let go. He wrote dozens of stories. Most are forgotten now. But Carmilla endures. Not as famous as Dracula, not as culturally dominant, but still being read, still being adapted, still influencing every vampire story written after. Because it's not really about vampires. It's about predatory intimacy, about love that consumes, about recognizing danger in someone who makes you feel less alone. It's about the monster who gets invited in because she looks like exactly what you need. And it's about the scars that remain even after the monster is destroyed. Laura survives. She recovers physically. She lives a full life. But she never forgets Carmilla, never stops hearing her footsteps, never stops remembering with ambiguous alternations. Part of her, the lonely part, the part that craved intimacy so desperately, will always love Carmilla, will always wish things had been different. That's the real horror. Not that vampires exist, but that we can't fully hate them, can't completely reject them, can't erase the good memories even when we know the truth. We're all Laura, all of us who've been drained by someone we loved, all of us who've recognized too late that intimacy was predation, all of us who still remember with ambiguous alternations the monster who attacked us and the person who made us feel chosen, both real, both true, both impossible to reconcile. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you had a Carmilla in your life? Someone who got close, fast, too fast, made you feel special, chosen, understood, then slowly started draining you of energy, money, time, self-worth, until you woke up one day and didn't recognize yourself anymore. Someone you still remember with ambiguous alternations. Someone you know hurt you, but part of you still misses. If you have, how did you escape? Did someone intervene? Or did you have to drive the stake yourself? And if you're in that situation now, if you're being drained by someone who says they love you, what are you waiting for? Permission to leave? You have it. Proof that they don't really love you. You already have it. Love doesn't drain you. The strength to be alone again. You'll find it. Being alone is better than being consumed. Let us know in the comments. No judgment, just honesty. Because maybe we all need to talk about our Carmillas, the beautiful monsters we invited in, the predators who looked like love. Maybe that's the only way we learn to recognize them next time, before they get close enough to feed. And if you believe these dark myths, strange histories, and uncomfortable truths are worth remembering, if you believe the story of the first vampire, the one who loved her victims to death, deserves to be told, you can help us continue this work by liking this video and subscribing to the Midnight Archives. Click the bell so you never miss an episode. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's being drained. Someone who thinks predatory love is the only love they deserve. Thank you for watching. Thank you for thinking. Thank you for sitting with uncomfortable questions. The archive is closing now. The candle burns low. But somewhere, right now, someone is being seduced. By a Carmilla in whatever form she takes now. Getting close. Learning weaknesses. Manufacturing intimacy. Preparing to feed. And the victim feels lucky. Chosen, loved. They don't realize they're being drained until it's too late, until they're pale, weak, empty, until there's almost nothing left. The question isn't whether Carmillas exist. They do. They always have. The question is, will you recognize her before she destroys you? Or will you be like Laura, surviving, recovering, but never quite whole again? Forever hearing footsteps, forever remembering with ambiguous alternations the beautiful girl who loved you, the writhing fiend who fed on you, both true, both real, both Carmilla. Welcome to the Midnight Archives. The door is closed, but is she still inside? Is she in your bed right now, whispering that she loves you, making you feel chosen? Is she draining you slowly, lovingly, intimately? And if she is, will you drive the stake? Or will you let her finish feeding? The mirror never lies, but sometimes we don't want to see what it shows us. Sometimes the monster has a face we love, and that's the most dangerous monster of all.